Dr. Lassane, I believe.
Fantastic. Since it's 1 o'clock now, we'll go ahead and call the meeting, this special meeting of the Everett Public Schools Board of Directors together. We'll start with a roll call.
President Lassane.
Present.
Vice President Mitchell.
Present.
Director Mason. Director Herman.
Present. Present.
Director Nichols.
Thank you very much. We'll now move to adoption of the agenda. Dr. Salzman, would you identify or like to provide the introduction to this meeting?
Yes, thank you, President and Board of Directors, and to the audit team. This is our entrance conference today, and we're glad to be here and looking forward to it. And if it's okay with everybody, I'd like to do quick introductions, starting with the audit team, and then we'll just introduce ourselves. I'm the superintendent of the public schools in Salzman. Good to see the entrance team, the audit team again. I remember meeting you my first year. And if we could just introduce everybody, probably Christina, do you want to start on your side of the box there?
Sure, I'd love to. Thank you, Dr. Salzman. All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christina Baylor, and I serve as the audit manager for your local office of the Washington State Auditors. I've worked with the district for many years, so it's always a pleasure to see you all, even in our continued virtual environment that we have today. I am joined by 3 members of my staff, so we'll start with Courtney, and then we'll continue there. Courtney.
My name is Courtney Amundsen. I am your audit supervisor for the audit this year. I think this is my second year in this round, but it's always a pleasure to work with the district over the years. So.
Perfect.
And my name is Maggie Wallace, and I'm the audit lead for this year's audit. I have worked on the district's audit, but it was back in 2016 or prior. So it's been a few years.
And my name is Morgan, and I'm a staff member working on this audit with Maggie and Courtney. And I am a fairly new auditor, so I am just here to observe the proceedings. Thank you.
President?
Andy, would you like to go next?
Excellent. I'm Andy Tress, and I oversee the budget and accounting departments, and working with the audit team as well. Becky, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Becky Thomas, and I am the accounting supervisor and working with the audit team. And this is my first audit with Everett School District.
Okay, I will introduce, I'll start with the board. My name is Pamela Sane. I'm board president.
Tracy Mitchell, board vice president.
Caroline Mason. I think this is my 9th audit with the district. And I just want to say today, I love Zoom because if you can see outside there's snow, I'm at Stevens Pass. So I got to ski this morning and then pop in for a Zoom meeting. So thank you for the Zoom invitation.
Hi. And I'm officially jealous right now. My name is Jen Herman, and I'm one of the directors. I'm in my first year, so this is my first audit, and I'm here this morning or this afternoon just to really learn the process.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And we'll move on to section 4.0, which is our information, which is our audit entrance conference. And I'm going to turn this over to Andy Tress, who's our presenter during this section.
I'm going to actually turn it over to Christina Baylor, who she has the documents for the presentation. Are you able to proceed with the presentation, Christina?
Yes, it looks like Courtney has it all up and ready to go. So we're in a good spot. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I think that's the important way to start out. We know you're all busy. If you're skiing today or just enjoying your busy lives, we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us this afternoon to attend what we call our entrance conference for Everett Public School District. If you're seeing the screen in front of you, you should all see our slide for our virtual presentation, which is titled our entrance conference. Before we move into today's presentation material, I just want to make quick mention of the small disclaimer that's at the bottom of your screen. In addition to the virtual presentation today, we do have a packet of information that was sent out ahead of today's meeting. I believe that's been disseminated to everybody, but just in case you don't have it, we will be sharing that again following our presentation. There's no need to have it up and ready to go as we move through the materials. It's really just a takeaway that you can read through at your own time. And if you do have it, we're happy to answer any questions as we move through it. So we'll get started with our first slide today. I'm very pleased to see that we have board members that have been through this a number of times and some new faces to the audit process. That's always great to share a little bit about our process with you all. So we like to take the moment at our entrance conferences to talk a little bit about the services that we perform. And on the slide here in front of you, you'll see a little bit about our office. So first, we do have a state auditor who is elected. And she is, I believe, she's been through a couple of terms now. So I think we're getting ready to get ready for the next term elections. But Pat McCarthy is our elected state auditor. And as an auditing office, we are appointed by the state legislature and written into the state constitution to be the auditor of all public funds. So that gives us quite a lot of work to do. If you can imagine, there are many, many local governments across the state, as well as some state agencies. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see in 2021, we did almost 2,700 individual reports. So that keeps us pretty busy. We're visiting all of the school districts across the state, as well as all of the other local governments. So those range from counties, cities, fire districts, water, utility districts, you name it. If they're a local government and they receive public funding, we are conducting their audit. But another thing that is a little interesting to share with our attendees is that we don't just do one type of audit. We actually have a wide breadth of audit services that we do offer our clients, and a sample of those are shown on the screen in front of you. Not all audits that we offer are applicable in any one year. They can be applicable in certain years, but they don't always apply. We do have some regular audits that we do conduct for Everett School District each year, and those are highlighted on the screen. During our presentation, we're going to be doing a little bit of a deeper dive into the first three boxes, which are accountability, financial, and federal audits, all of which we have planned for this year's engagement. But in the gray boxes, you'll see other types of audits that we can conduct or could be applicable in future years. Some of those range from performance audits, which we do have a performance audit team that does touch on school district related topics from time to time. I think they have a couple audits that they're currently working on right now. We're also doing cybersecurity audits for governments that can sign up to get a review of their IT security systems. That is very popular and nowadays with all of the cybersecurity threats. So that is something that we can offer our local governments as well. And then in addition, some interesting areas can include citizen hotlines. This would be an audit type that could be applicable if a member of your community or a citizen had a concern about Everett Public Schools that they'd like us to evaluate as an audit team and consider in a future audit. That box is gray today because we had no concerns submitted to us from a citizen hotline referral. So that's good news. But if there were any, just know that those are things that we can try to incorporate in our audit. So with that, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the three audits we do have planned. And I believe Maggie is going to start us off with the accountability audit. So Maggie.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so we're going to conduct an accountability audit for the 21-22 school year. We utilize a risk-based approach in selecting our areas for further review. So this involves completing a number of different planning procedures, things such as meeting with key members of management, reading the board's meeting minutes, analytical trends, as well as other things, other planning procedures. And based on these planning procedures, we have identified the areas included on this slide for our audit this year. The first one, ASB, this one just continues to be an area of higher risk due to the many state requirements and risks associated with fundraising, cash proceeding, events, all those sorts of things. And additionally, it's been more than a few years since we've looked at this area. And with the return to in-person learning, we did note, an increase in activity, which is expected. So with this area, we'll basically just perform some analytical procedures to determine the specific locations and areas within ASB that we want to dive further into. And we'll be able to share those results with you at our exit conference. And then the second one, so we know the district enters into many contracts for services, and there's always a risk, with contract monitoring, that there's not adequate controls. So for this area, we'll select, a number of contracts for testing to make sure that the district is monitoring compliance with the terms of the contract or agreement, safeguarding public resources by ensuring services were actually provided, and the vendor and contractor was paid in accordance with the contract terms. Also making sure compliance with any clauses that are within the contracts, such as if there's certain targets that have to be met, or certain support or documents that have to be provided, and also making sure that the actual procurement of the contract was adequate based on the district's policies and state laws. And then the third area, use of restricted funds. So this is one that's mandated for audit by state law. This is one that we've looked at for the past few years. So for the local revenue, we'll basically just make sure that there weren't any changes to the district's written plan or its methodology for distinguishing between expenditures of state and local revenues, and also make sure that the district allocated those expenditures in accordance with their plan. We'll also ensure that the district expended its professional learning allocation in accordance with the state requirements. And then for supplemental contracts, this is also another area that we've been looking at for the past few years. So for this one, we'll continue to select a sample of contracts and make sure that they include the elements that are required by state law. And electronic fund transfers, this one's a statewide theme, with the increase in requests to change payment information for employee direct deposit, coming from illegitimate requesters. This is just something that's very common. There's lots of frauds going on out there. So for this area, we'll just be following up on some best practice recommendations that we issued later in last year's audit, just to see if any of those were adopted. And then the last two areas are areas that are reviewed in all of our audits. For the minutes, this is one thing that we always look at, as part of our planning procedures, not only to identify risk and to determine, what activity occurred since the last audit, but also to review and make sure that the district's minutes are in compliance with the OPMA requirements. And as far as the financial condition, this one's where we look at different ratios just to make sure that there's not any indication of financial distress, where it would require a note disclosure to your end users of the financial statements. And of course, we've selected those areas for review, but we do like to let you know too, we're always open. If there's a certain area that you have a concern over, that you're interested in us looking at, please feel free to bring those to our attention. It's never too late for us to consider or change our audit plan. So with that, are there any other questions or concerns related to these areas that we've incorporated for our audit this year? Gonna kind of just scroll through and make sure I don't see any heads.
I have a question regarding the period of time. Is it between September 1, 2021 through August 31st, 2022? Is that just focused on the school year, right? The previous school year. It doesn't include this school year, right?
It depends on the audit area. Typically for our federal and our financial audits, we audit the school year, so the 21 through 22 for those periods. Accountability has a little more flexibility. Sometimes we will audit up to current just to make sure that if there are any pressing items or things that could be of concern, we're not letting a whole nother year pass until we bring those to your attention.
Understood. I didn't just wanted to check to see if you were the previous school year or up to current date. I just didn't know. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And I guess my biggest question is just because of the closure with that ASB student body activities, I'd be really interested to see what there is to learn. Maybe it's not really fraud found, but with different students, different parents, different leaders that have happened throughout the years, any learnings we can do that we can pass forward or even correct this current school year.
Okay, maybe we can connect afterwards to maybe talk that a little bit more through to make sure I have your concerns.
Of course.
Okay, perfect. Okay, in addition to our accountability audit, we'll also be conducting a financial audit that will cover the same period. The objective of a financial statement audit is just to issue an opinion on whether the district's financial statements are presented fairly and free of material misstatements. It's also important to note that our audits are conducted in accordance with governmental auditing standards. Those standards require that we take a look at the district's internal controls or its process that it goes through to prepare the financial statements. And should we become aware of any concerns with the process that could or did allow a misstatement to occur, we're required to bring those to your attention. And then lastly, we'll also remain alert to identify any instances of non-compliance that could impact the financial statements. And we'll bring this to your attention as well. And then at the end of the engagement, we'll also issue a financial statement audit report to the district in accordance with US GAAP. This report will detail the opinion that's being issued, the results and consideration of the district's internal controls and compliance, as well as a full set of the financial statements. And then also too, in relation to the financial statements, we'd also like to bring to your attention the special area of focus. For this year, we're going to be looking at a new accounting standard that was implemented, GASB 87 over leases. This basically just required a different way to report leases. So we'll just be looking at the district's implementation of the standard to make sure that it was correctly implemented. And then in relation to our financial statement.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you go back one slide? So could you give me, not that, yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Can you give me some examples of where this would fall? What kind of work that a school district would have? Is this leases that are you looking at the leases that we offer to people or we have with outside companies and such?
Yes,
or the other way around?
It can be both. So it's both the lesser and the lessee side of it.
Okay.
And generally it's looking at a materiality aspect of it to determine.
Director Mason, to give you kind of an example, for example, one of them is our copier lease. We lease our copier machines. Another example, we're looking at our lease for the Everett baseball stadium fall under that.
Right, that's the only one I could think of. Because a lot of ours are actually their agreements with different organizations, not leases. So is it physical property?
It's whatever, if someone or we have the right to control the use of the asset, or they have the right to use the asset. So it may not even be a true like a lease in general. It's just how it's terminology in the agreement. So typically we're looking at the Everett Community College lease was one of them, as well as our copier leases. There wasn't very many.
Yeah, thank you.
And then we also plan to issue what is referred to as an annual comprehensive financial report letter. This is referred to as the ACFR letter. So the district participates in the optional certificate of award program through Government Finance Officers Association, which you may have heard of GFOA more commonly. This program requires that the district prepare additional statements and schedules that are subject to audit. And then upon completing, additional procedures to audit these, we'll issue a ACFR letter that will be included in their final annual report and award submission. And then the last type of audit that we plan to conduct is a federal compliance audit, or a single audit, most commonly referred to as. The objective of the single audit is just to ascertain whether the district materially complied with the requirements of receiving the federal funding. And upon the completion of this audit, we'll issue an opinion on the district's compliance with the federal requirements. An unmodified opinion is the opinion you want to receive. This provides assurance that the district expended the funds, with their intended purpose by the federal government, and that all requirements were materially followed. These results will be published in a combined report with our financial statement audit. And additionally, it's important to note that our audits are conducted in accordance with uniform guidance. Those standards also require that we look at the process or the district's internal controls to ensure compliance with each grant requirement. And should we become aware of any weakness or concern with that process that could or did result in significant non-compliance, we would be required to bring those to your attention.
I know this type of audit always comes up in every period that I've been involved in, but is the federal government doing anything special in light of the ESSER funds we received during COVID that requires any additional audits in your respect?
Doesn't change the process for which however many audits we conduct. It's a matter of there's specific requirements and different calculations that we have to use that they have laid out. So the additional funding that you received did require us to perform, I believe, an additional grant. We typically would do 2. This year we're having to do 3 in order to meet that required amount of federal funding that we take a look at.
Okay, I just wanted to find that out.
Yeah.
I just asked that question.
And then in conducting our federal grant compliance audits, we do select enough federal grant programs for audit to satisfy coverage requirements that are set forth by the federal guidelines. For the district, this equates to 20% of expenditures for coverage because the district qualifies as a low-risk auditee. In assessing this requirement, we've identified these 3 grants that are listed here for inclusion in this year's audit. You can see that these comprise about 55% of your total federal expenditures reported on your CFA. And with that, I will turn it back over to Courtney.
All right, so just a couple of additional slides with just some information for you to be aware of. So our goal throughout the duration of the audit is to make sure that we are keeping in communication and keeping you up to date on the process of the audit. Our goal is to get to the end without any questions or concerns that might come up. And so there's a variety of different ways that we go about keeping the district in the loop. Starting with the beginning of the audit, we conducted a pre-audit meeting to get the audit rolling and make sure it was a smooth transition as we got started. We've also provided the district an engagement letter that includes all the information that we're discussing today, just in a formal letter. During the planning procedures that Maggie mentioned earlier, we also conduct a risk assessment. And the goal of our risk assessments is it gives an opportunity for us to speak with several members of management as well as the governing body to gain understanding of observations that the district may have observed throughout the year or any potential risks that you want to bring to our attention. And so that has also been conducted. And then at the conclusion of the audit, we'll also be providing a management representation letter, which we provide every year, and it just gives the representation of what has been provided to our office. But the 2 main areas I want to focus on that we feel bring the most significant amount of communication is number 1, our weekly status meetings. We meet with Andy and Becky and anybody from the finance team that wants to join or is relevant to the conversation. And the goal of those meetings is really just to provide an update on where we're at with the work that we're performing. Gives an opportunity for us to discuss any questions that we might have, that the district might have, so that throughout the duration of the audit, there's no concern about not knowing where we're at and what we're working on. And then at the conclusion of the audit, we will be conducting an exit conference similar to the entrance that we're holding right now. And the goal of our exit is to provide the results of our audit and answer any questions that anybody might have to ensure that you have a full understanding of what reports will be released to the public. And so for those of you that are new to the audit process, this is just a good opportunity to give you an idea of how we report any concerns that come to our attention through the duration of the audit. We have 3 reporting levels. Our highest reporting level is a finding. If you were to receive a finding, it is included in your audit report. Included with that, you have the opportunity to include a response to the finding, which again is also included in that report. Our next level down is a management letter. These are items that are still formally addressed to management, but not included in its entirety in the report. It's only included as just a reference. Somebody would need to request it from our office should they want to see the remaining information. And then our lowest level are exit items. This is what we often call housekeeping items. These are just minor items that come to our attention through the duration of the audit that we discuss with management to make them aware of so that they don't turn into anything larger. And then just a couple of reminders for you to be aware of. The first one is that our goal is always to make sure that all information provided to us, especially confidential information, it remains that way. And so we do ask that if there is any confidential information that is provided to us, that you make us aware of that so we can make sure to take the steps necessary to keep it secure. We have included the audit costs in your packet. It's on page 2 of your packet, as well as in the engagement letter. And then should we have any concerns that come up that we can't resolve amongst this group, we always hope that that doesn't occur, but should that happen, we do have a dispute resolution process in place if it's needed. And then finally, just as a reminder, state law does require the district to report any potential known or suspected loss to our office. Should that occur, you can go on our website and there's information for how to submit the form to fill out and provide that information. And then somebody from our fraud team will respond if there's any further questions or any additional work that is needed. And you can also just let anybody on our audit team know as well if that concern comes up, and we can help you with that process as well. And then I'm sure you've heard quite a bit about cybersecurity issues. And so with that, there's just a couple of reminders we wanted to make you aware of. State and local governments, should a cybersecurity issue come up, state and local governments may also be required to report cybersecurity issues, including security breaches and cyber fraud. And reporting is required to the Attorney General's office if a single security incident affects more than 500 Washington residents. Reporting to our office may also be necessary if the event involves financial records or finances. And that requirement to report is not dictated by the number of affected parties or whether you experienced a financial loss. And so state and local government employees should be should alert us to suspected fraud and notifications, and those can be made on our website. And there is a link that is provided on page 3 of your packet, should that occur. And if you want to learn any more information about these requirements, there's information on our website that is on the screen as well as in your packet as well. And then one question that we do get asked fairly often is who audits the auditor? And we do receive an audit every 3 years from the National State Auditors Association. They come in from various states to take a look at our audits to make sure that we are conducting our audits in accordance with audit standards. And so if you're interested in seeing our most recent audit, there's a link to our website on the screen as well as in your packet. And we received the highest level of assurance in the form of a pass rating. So if you're interested in a fun read, it's about a 1 or 2 page document, but it's there if you're interested. And then beyond the regularly scheduled audit, we also have some additional support services that are available at no additional cost to you. They're available year-round. The first is our local government support team, and they are available to assist with annual financial reporting and accounting services to our local governments in a variety of ways. They provide technical assistance, various resources that are available on our website. And our local government support team really strives to ensure that our local governments are prepared to meet their annual reporting requirements. And they also provide several trainings around the state and virtually each year to keep you updated on the latest accounting and reporting topics. And then in addition, the Center for Government Innovation is another great resource for local governments. They provide lean process improvement and change management facilitations along with team building and leadership workshops to help your government become more effective and efficient. And their financial intelligence tool is also offered on our website to give you an understanding of what's going on with a variety of governments around the state. And the center, as I just mentioned, they also provide a free and ever-growing resource database on our website, and it offers a variety of best practice guidance on a number of different financial areas to help you strengthen your government's internal controls and monitoring. In addition to the payroll guide, there's also guides for cash receipting, accounts payable, and other resources if you want to dig a bit deeper into other areas such as bid compliance and other things. These resources can also assist with policy development as well if you have the need. And so we do encourage you to take a look at our website and take a look at that resource database if you're interested in any specific areas, as well as let us know if you have any questions or any specific resources that you're looking for. And then going along with that, we did include a variety of resources in your packet. The packet's fairly lengthy. Because of that, that is mainly due to the different resources that we encourage you to take a look at. And if at any point you have any questions for us at the conclusion or afterwards, just let us know. So the first one is our Audit Connection. This is a newsletter that our office puts out about twice a year, the most recent being September of last year. In this most recent newsletter includes a variety of articles that are applicable to what's going on in our office, as well as things that are happening that may be applicable to our local governments. And so this particular newsletter includes articles about our new file sharing tool that the district is currently using, as well as an updated buying and bidding guide, and then some additional trainings that our offices provided. Going along with that, though, our office also has on their website, between when these newsletters are released, we also provide additional articles on our blog and on our website that essentially are added to these newsletters when they do come out. So we do encourage you to take a look at our website on a fairly regular basis, just to remain aware of the different information that is being released. And then each year our office provides a GASB update. As Maggie mentioned, there's a new standard we're taking a look at, but if you're familiar with the GASBs that are coming out, they change fairly regularly. And so we like to provide an updated document to give you an idea of the areas and the GASBs that we'll be looking at in the current audit, as well as the standards that are coming up to be hopefully prepared before they come around for an audit. So this update gives several years in advance of what we're seeing come down the line. And then our special investigations team has also created a guide to help elected officials and appointed board members implement policies and internal control best practices for preventing employee fraud within your own government. The guide is available to download in the resource library on our website that I just mentioned. The guide is organized into 3 sections: preventing fraud, detecting fraud, and responding to fraud. The first section offers tips to consider when designing your government's fraud prevention framework, which includes setting an anti-fraud tone in your organization, establishing a fraud policy, and guidance on assessing your fraud risk. The second section offers tips for improving your government's fraud detection abilities, including a list of 3 simple review strategies boards and elected officials can implement to improve their fraud detection and prevention efforts. And then the third section offers guidance on how to respond to employee fraud within your district. It includes tips for developing a fraud response plan and a communication strategy for responding to public and media attention. And the guide also explains how to report losses to our office. And this guide can be found in your packet beginning on page 26. And then finally, we've also included just a reminder that, again, with the ever-growing unfortunate cybersecurity issues that have come up, we've included just a reminder that cyber checkups to diagnose gaps that could lead your government vulnerable to common threats are available by our office. And so on the page there and on our website, there's information for how to obtain a cyber checkup for your own district. And so with that, are there any questions for us today?
I had a question. And this might be, I think this might be for Andy or Dr. Salzman, actually maybe both of them. The ACFR, was that formerly the CAFR or is that?
Yes, so there was a GASB that changed the name from the CAFR to the ACFR, so the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report.
Okay, and do I recall that we've done that historically in the past? I know we're just one of a few districts, I think, in the state of Washington that sort of does that extra reporting. And did we decide not to do that going forward because of budget constraints?
It was one thing on the list that we are looking at to not do it going forward because of budget constraint, because there are extra costs to do that. Certain things won't go away, but yes, there are certain costs that would be less for that. We wouldn't have to do.
So we did it for the previous school year. And are we doing it this year or are we in question for this year?
For this year, we're still doing it because we've already paid the cost to do the extra pieces of it, except for the fees.
And then is there an opportunity or what would the mechanism be for the board of directors to get updates along the way? Because typically what happens is we have our entrance conference and we don't hear anything until the letter comes out and we have an exit conference. And just because we're in such uncertain financial times with both COVID and just the budget reduction, I personally would love to get an update or a couple updates along the way more frequently, not the weekly meetings, but I'm wondering how that might happen.
I could personally do something in a Friday report, or if you wanted something more directed from the auditors, typically, if there's any concern or anything, we're going to probably communicate that before it comes to you. But we haven't had any outside of the kind of housekeeping items in the past where that really arise to the level of we need to communicate ahead of time to the board.
Okay, that makes sense.
So does that mean that you're going to put any, I'm kind of still not sure, what does that mean?
So we could provide a status of where we're at within the pieces if there's no issues. I mean, kind of something simple to that regard, or if you want something from the auditors, we can work with them to see what they would like to see around.
Yeah, we're pretty flexible with
I'm
how,
wondering if maybe.
Oh, I was just going to say we're flexible with how we can go about reporting. Typically, if the ACFR is being released without any issues, oftentimes we will still send an update to let you know before it comes out if there's no issues involved with it, just to give you assurance it's clean, it's being released. But we certainly can provide an interim exit conference when that's happened or before that happens. That way we can answer any questions and make sure that you're aware of it and what those results are. So it's whatever your preference, we can definitely
Yeah, I think, you know, my personal preference would be that if there was something that triggered a reason to notify us, you know, good, bad, whatever, that would be more helpful than just taking up your time with another conference or weekly reports when there's really nothing to report.
Yeah, and typically we don't know what things will look like or what all of those items will be until towards the end of the audit.
Right.
At this
That's
point in
understandable.
time, there's really nothing, all of the items are housekeeping items that we typically would see on the exit piece.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And then just because I had the questions, Maggie, about ASB, Darlene can put you in touch with me, just maybe set up the time, because it really is that usually things are handed off, but you know, without a handoff, that's really my biggest question.
Yeah, and typically with the ASBs, with new admin or new ASB treasurers, we are working with them in the finance and with our athletics and activity departments. And so we meet with all of the high school treasurers and the middle school office managers pretty regularly as well, especially since back in person, we've been doing the in-person meetings again so that they have an opportunity to ask questions and get support from their peers on things, activities they're doing.
Okay, Andy, that sort of helped, because maybe we don't need a meeting then, because it really is that, you know, year by year, the past, you know, the booster chair might give to the new booster chair, but since we had gaps and some of those booster parents might have moved on, and then you don't have even the senior student that was there, the junior student that was there to sort of be that sort of adult figure. That's just my concern. But if you feel like you've got the organization in place, it would just be, again, any learnings that especially because it was the first year really back.
So in the beginning of the year, we do a kickoff meeting with all of our office managers and our treasurers. And then actually Danny, our athletics and activity director, and I were working to do that with our admin annually as well, so that we can kind of have consistency in regards to the support we need at the school levels for ASB.
Okay, yeah, so just, you know, any learnings that we can share with them. So that's all I really questioned. So thank you.
Are there any other questions, directors? We hadn't heard from Director Herman, who's our newest director on, and this was her first audit process. Do you have any further questions, Director Herman?
Not at this time. I'll be curious to see it from start to finish, and what that looks like, but no questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, I think that's all we have for you today. So we do appreciate your time. And there's information, or contact information is also included in the packet as well. So if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to us.
I do want to say one thing, Courtney, before we exit. First of all, thank you for this entrance as always, and very proud of the safeguards that we have in the system. Okay, even just meeting with new treasurers and new principals with ASB. Good questions for the board as they continue to be consumers of the budget during these very complex times. So the updates are good, and I'm just glad that you and Andy continue meeting as you guys have in place. It's one of Andy's strengths as a former CPA, so this is quite helpful for everybody, so I do appreciate it as always.
Well, thank you all very much for coming. I appreciate it. Look forward to hearing any updates that you think we should hear about beforehand. And well, we're in town, so please let us know, and we'll look forward to the exit conference. With that being said, this meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you.
Enjoy your day.
Thank
Enjoy
you,
your day.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.